I have been watching traffic enforcement patterns shift for long enough to recognize when procedural changes stop being about safety and start being about revenue generation and control infrastructure. 2026 is the year that shift became formalized across multiple jurisdictions. 10 separate changes to driving law, vehicle registration, and traffic enforcement have either taken full effect or are being phased in over the next 9 months. These are not minor updates to existing regulations. These are structural changes to how driving privileges are granted, monitored, and revoked in the United States. And the majority of drivers are operating under assumptions that no longer match the legal reality they are moving through. Let me be precise about what has changed, because precision here is the difference between a clean driving record and a criminal conviction that follows you for years. The graduated driver licensing system for young drivers has been restructured in 18 states. The minimum required supervised driving hours for learners under 18 have been doubled in most jurisdictions. Previously, a 16-year-old applicant needed to complete 30 to 40 hours of supervised driving. That requirement is now 60 to 80 hours. And the definition of supervised driving has been narrowed. In 12 states, the supervisor must now be a parent, legal guardian, or state-certified driving instructor. No longer can an older sibling or family friend serve in that role. But the more significant change is what happens when a violation occurs during the learner period. Under the new framework, any moving violation during the learner period resets the supervised hour requirement to 0. If you are at hour 75 of an 80-hour requirement, and you're cited for failing to signal a lane change, you start over. Hour 1. All 75 completed hours are voided. This applies to violations as minor as rolling through a stop sign or exceeding the speed limit by 8 miles per hour. There are no exceptions. There is no appeals process for minor infractions. This is being framed as ensuring competence. But the practical effect is that the path to licensure for young drivers has become substantially longer and substantially more fragile. For families in rural areas where driving is essential for employment and education, this creates a barrier that can delay economic independence by months or even years. The second change is the integration of insurance verification systems with law enforcement databases in real time. This system is now operational in 34 states. When a vehicle registration is processed, the DMV receives electronic confirmation from the insurance company. If the insurance policy lapses, the DMV is notified within 24 hours. The vehicle registration is then flagged as uninsured. Law enforcement officers can now see, before they exit their vehicle, whether the car they have pulled over is flagged as uninsured. In states with automatic enforcement, the officer is required to impound the vehicle immediately. There is no grace period. If the system shows no active insurance, the vehicle is towed. The driver is cited. And in 7 states, the driver is arrested on the spot for operating an uninsured vehicle, which has been reclassified as a criminal misdemeanor. Impound rates for uninsured vehicles have increased by 340% in jurisdictions where automatic enforcement is active. Impound fees, towing fees, and reinstatement fees can total $1,500 to $3,000. For many drivers, the cost is prohibitive. The vehicle remains an impound. After 30 days, it can be sold at auction. The driver loses the car entirely. What makes this particularly severe is that insurance lapses are not always the fault of the driver. Billing errors occur. Credit card expirations cause automatic payments to fail. Insurance companies cancel policies for non-payment and send notices to outdated addresses. By the time the driver discovers the lapse, they may have already been driving uninsured for days or weeks. And under the new system, that gap is enough to trigger impoundment and criminal charges. The third change is the incentivization of dashcam usage through insurance premium adjustments. 9 major insurance companies operating in 23 states have introduced tiered premium structures based on dashcam installation. The discount ranges from 8 to 15% of the annual premium. Drivers who do not install dashcams are now paying a premium relative to those who do. And in accidents where one party has dashcam footage and the other does not, the party without footage is at a significant evidentiary disadvantage. Insurance adjusters are treating dashcam footage as the primary source of truth. Witness statements and police reports are being given less weight when video evidence exists on one side, but not the other. The result is a creeping normalization of continuous surveillance, not mandated by law, mandated by economic pressure. The fourth change is the escalation of parking enforcement and the expansion of vehicle immobilization for unpaid fines. Municipal governments in 47 cities have implemented automated systems that cross-reference license plate data with outstanding parking violations. If a vehicle accumulates more than $300 to $750 in unpaid fines, it is flagged for immediate towing. Previously, unpaid tickets would result in a hold on registration renewal. Under the new system, the vehicle can be towed at any time once the threshold is reached. The driver has no warning. They return to where they parked and the car is gone. Towing fees, impound fees, and the original fines must all be paid before release. The total can exceed $2,000. And because these systems are automated and networked across enforcement zones, a vehicle can accumulate fines in multiple neighborhoods over weeks or months without the driver realizing they are approaching the towing threshold. By the time they are aware, the car is already gone. Cities that have implemented these systems have seen parking and towing revenue increase by 60 to 120% within the first year. This is structured revenue generation. And it is working by converting minor infractions into major financial penalties that many people cannot afford to pay. The fifth change is the elimination of online renewal for driver's licenses for individuals over 75. 14 states have enacted this requirement. Drivers over 75 must now renew in person. They must pass a vision test, and in 9 states, they must also pass a cognitive screening test. If results indicate potential impairment, the DMV can require a driving test. And if the test has failed, or if a physician submits a report stating the individual is not safe to drive, the license can be suspended or revoked. The implementation is creating a system where age alone triggers additional scrutiny. A 76-year-old with a perfect driving record is subjected to testing that a 35-year-old with multiple accidents is not required to undergo. The result is that older drivers are being removed from the road at higher rates, some legitimately, others because they failed a test that has not been rigorously validated for driving competence. The sixth change is the reclassification of certain speeding violations from infractions to criminal offenses. Virginia was the first state to implement this in 2024. As of 2026, 6 additional states have adopted similar frameworks. Driving more than 30 miles per hour over the posted speed limit is now classified as reckless driving, which is a criminal misdemeanor. The difference is significant. A traffic infraction results in a fine and points on your license. A criminal misdemeanor results in a criminal record, potential jail time, and a mandatory court appearance. In Virginia, reckless driving carries up to 12 months in jail and a fine of up to $2,500. Even first-time offenders with no prior record are facing criminal charges and the long-term consequences of a criminal conviction. And because the threshold is 30 miles per hour over the limit, it is not difficult to cross. On a highway with a 65 mile per hour limit, driving 95 triggers the charge. Many drivers are being charged without understanding that what they thought was a speeding ticket is actually a criminal offense. The confusion is compounded by the fact that officers are not required to explain the criminal nature of the charge at the time of the stop. Many drivers sign the citation believing they will simply pay a fine online, only to discover weeks later that they are required to appear in court and that they now have a pending criminal case. The seventh change is the implementation of annual road usage fees for electric vehicles. 41 states now charge an additional annual fee to electric vehicle owners. The fees range from $50 to $300 per year. And 3 states have implemented mileage-based fees where owners must report annual mileage and pay a per-mile fee. The mileage reporting is done through telematics devices or self-reporting verified by odometer readings. The per-mile fees are currently 1 to 2 cents per mile. For a driver who travels 15,000 miles annually, that amounts to $150 to $300. This erosion of the cost advantage that electric vehicles once offered is occurring at the same time that purchase prices for EVs remain higher than comparable gasoline vehicles. The economic calculus that made electric vehicles attractive is being systematically adjusted through fee structures that target them specifically. The eighth change is the reduction of the legal blood alcohol concentration limit from 0.08 to 0.05 in 11 states. The penalties for exceeding it remain the same: license suspension, fines, mandatory alcohol education, and in some cases ignition interlock device installation even for first-time offenders. The practical effect is that the margin for error has been reduced. For many people, particularly those of smaller body weight, 0.05 can be reached after 1 or 2 drinks over the course of an evening. What was previously legal is now a criminal offense. And because field sobriety tests can produce false positives and breathalyzer devices have documented error rates, drivers are being charged in situations where their actual impairment level may not justify the charge. The ninth change is the deployment of AI-powered traffic cameras in 26 cities. These cameras use computer vision to detect violations in real time. Failure to signal, following too closely, distracted driving. The cameras identify the violation, capture the license plate, and issue a citation automatically. No officer is involved. The accuracy is not perfect. Early data shows error rates between 8 and 15%, but the burden of contesting falls on the driver. Many people do not contest, they pay the fine, and the system continues generating revenue. The 10th change is the escalation of penalties for handheld device use while driving. First-time violations now carry fines ranging from $250 to $500. Second violations can result in license suspension. And insurance companies are treating these violations the same way they treat moving violations. Your rates increase. Additionally, in 8 states, officers are now authorized to demand that you unlock your phone and provide access to usage logs to verify whether you are actively using the device at the time of the stop. Refusal to comply is treated as a separate violation. This creates a Fourth Amendment tension that has not yet been fully litigated, but in the meantime, drivers are being told to unlock their phones or face additional penalties. These 10 changes are not uniform across all 50 states. Driving law remains a patchwork, but the pattern is consistent. Enforcement is being automated, penalties are being escalated, revenue generation is being systematized, and the margin for error is being reduced. What was previously a warning is now a fine. What was previously a fine is now a criminal charge. What was previously a minor inconvenience is now a vehicle impoundment and a multi-thousand-dollar penalty. This is the environment drivers are operating in as of 2026. It is not the environment most of them learned to drive in. And it is not an environment where ignorance of the new rules will protect you from the consequences. That is not opinion. That is the current state of enforcement. And enforcement does not pause while you figure out what changed.